Welcome from the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter. This is our study group for June 15th, 2023. This is our 82nd study group. Today we're going to be talking about techniques. We're going to talk through the data dictionary and use cases and scenarios. Our chapter, although we are based out of Tampa Bay, Florida, we are an international chapter. We have people that watch our videos and attend our study groups from all around the world, so you are welcome. We have a mission to bridge the gap between industry leaders and business analysts by building partnerships with professionals, educators, and employers so that we may empower, instruct, and engage the BA community. We've given you a variety of ways to reach us. This is our 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern study group for every Thursday. We have past meeting recordings. Those will be dropped into the chat. We also have an IIBA website, meetups, Zoom, Facebook, and LinkedIn groups. So we have a lot of ways for you to reach us. Watermark Learning is our designated sponsor. They were kind enough to give us permission to use their practice study questions. And so although we're not using them this class, we are still claiming them as our sponsor. They give us a discount code of 20% off of any of their products, not only business analysis, but others. The discount code is Tampa with a space and then 21. We are a volunteer-run organization. Our board president is Cliff. You'll see him there in the Millennium Falcon. Yulia is our vice president of finance. Caitlin and Priscilla are board members at large. My name is Thea Soren. I'm the vice president of career and professional development. It's my job to help you learn what you need to learn. So if there's something that we are not addressing, reach out to me and we will try to get it addressed. We do need more board members, just fresh new faces, new people enthusiastic to serve our community. So if you have a couple of hours or want to become a named board member, let me know or let Cliff know, and we will see about getting some responsibilities, either things that you want to learn or things that you're good at that you want to use for our community. We'll get you set up. We have 2 study advisors for our study group. Bob Churchill has earned his CBAP certification as well as a variety of other certifications. He has a website that is rpchurchill.com that has not only business analysis items, but other items, including mechanical engineer, strategy, and a couple of other things that are quite interesting for a business analyst. If you would like to reach out to Bob, his email is bob@rpchurchill.com. Yulia is our other CBAP certified person that's attending our classes. She was in our study group for quite a while, and she passed her certification and chose to come onto the board and help our community. And she attends our study groups. What this attendance of these 2 CBAPs do is allow us to give you hours credit in your education for your education tracking as you apply for certification tests. We have a lot of people that have attended our study groups and that have earned their certifications. There's a list of them here. We're proud of every single one of those that have continued with any chapter there is, and have taken on some role of responsibility to help give back to their community are the ones I am honestly most proud of. So thank you for those. Let's see, Nino, I showed you this last week. Nino credited us with being part of his success in earning his CBAP certification. And I told you not very long ago that Yulia had taken on the vice president of finance, but I thought I would bring one more thing to light. Yulia lives here in Tampa, and she invited several of us to her graduation whenever she earned her master's degree not very long ago. Bob was able to attend, and I think it's really awesome that our people that are part of our study group take time to reach out and help each other, support each other, and attend events with each other. We have a park here in Tampa that we clean up periodically. Cliff organizes that for us, and so that we can get together and do some good for the community that way. Let me switch over here to this. This is our list of techniques that we are currently working on. As you know, there are 50 techniques in the BABOK. These are the ones that we have completed. Renew is scheduled to go over the data dictionary today, but you can see we have a couple of gaps. If there is one of these techniques you would be interested in presenting, please reach out to me and tell me when you would like to present it. And it doesn't have to be long or complicated. It doesn't even have to be super impressive. It just has to be, what does the BABOK say, so that other people that are in the study group can learn what the BABOK says. So this is what we're going to work on in the next several months as we continue to work through the techniques. I want to also bring, let's see if I can get this where I can get to all of it. If you go to the BABOK, if you go to the IIBA's website, you will see that they have a variety of other certifications that you can earn. We are not the only game in town, although we are a certified study group that gives you credit. There are other study groups that you can go to. You can pay for almost all of them. There are some that are professional providers, and then there are people, for instance, the Bluegrass group. They have a virtual study group for the data analytics certification. It's 6 weeks. I think they charge $279 for the 6 weeks. But if that's something that you're interested in, there are many, many opportunities out there. This is just an example. So if you want something like that, just do a Google search. I can guarantee you can find other things. Let's see. Let me turn it over to Bob to talk about his technique of choice. And let me stop sharing. And I'll turn it over to Bob. Thank you.
How's everyone today? So I'm basically gonna talk about use cases, which is a part of UML, or the Unified Modeling Language. In the BABOK, it's actually the full name of the technique is Use Cases and Scenarios. And what that is at root is collections of instructions for doing something. And typically, especially when interacting with some element of a system or some other thing. And that's really, at the end of the day, all it is. But there are a few cute things that they do in terms of formal diagramming. A lot of this grows out of, or UML does specifically, out of systems engineering generally, and IT specifically, or computer science. So I always say, I often show a graphic of looking at an object from different angles and seeing that it looks very different. And in order to understand the isness of it, you have to understand all the different views and aspects and see how it all fits together. Looking at use cases is one of the views. So let's think about a gas station and think about all the things you might do at a gas station. A really simple use case would be to pull up to a gas pump and pay for the gas. And there are a couple of ways to do that. And then pump the gas, then close it out, get a receipt, and drive away. There are other things you could do. There are throwing away trash, washing your windows, putting out fires, hitting emergency cutoff switches, going in to use the restroom or buy snacks. You might go to the air dispensary and fill up your tires. So there's a lot of things that could be done. And every one of those that involves a set of steps is really a potential use case. And that's one we can all relate to in our real life, physical lives. The way it usually comes up in business analysis is interacting with some kind of a UI screen, almost always, not exclusively, but almost always. So let's look at this diagram, which is a use case diagram. You show an actor of some kind, usually as a person. Now, one thing I'll comment here, it doesn't matter what this stick figure looks like, as long as you know it's some kind of representative entity. When you see documentation on use cases, you almost always see this represented as the kind of stick figure you drew in first grade, with a circle for a head and a straight line for a body and a cross for the arms and kind of two diagonals for the leg. And if it's a female or any individual wearing a dress, then maybe the body will be a little triangle. You can do that in Visio, but there is not a native symbol in Visio for that, which I just see as very weird. Anyway, here's the standard one single figure, so off we go. So the use case, all the use cases are really represented as ovals with text, and the actor interacts with the use case. So the there's a couple of elements here. One is the system that the person is interacting with, and the use case is depicted inside that system. So if you think about a gas station generally, you could also eliminate the bottom half of this picture and just see the system as a gas pump. And if you're a typical user, just a motorist coming in to get gas for your vehicle, then you would say the gas pump is the thing you're interacting with and you're buying gas. Now, if you looked at the gas station as a whole, you might say visit the station is a use case. You might do several other things. There might be a use case for go in and buy a box of Good and Plenty, use the restroom, do all the other things. They might be other use cases, right? And the BABOK talks about certain relationships, and there's both extend and include. And if you look at other references, these are the two major relationships that can exist between use cases, but and there are other features. The whole thing gets more complex than the BABOK gets into, but the BABOK is a good introductory reference, and this will get you most of the way there in your understanding. So what do the two operators really show? The first one is include, which is you can break down a use case into smaller ones. So one might be pay for gas and one might be pump gas. So buying gas, the whole process involves paying for it and pumping the gas. And if you think about it, the way you pay for it, that can actually have two branches. So if you, and you can actually depict that as a set of steps with a conditional, or you can do it as a flow chart. The process of pumping gas by itself is straightforward. But that's how you do includes, and the reason you do that is if you have sets of steps that you use over and over again in a lot of different situations, that's when you'd want to use and include. You define one use case and you use it wherever you need to, so you don't have to write out all those steps and invoke them every time. So it's a matter of making things modular. You're ultimately creating little pieces of Lego you can reuse, and that's always big in certainly software, but other kinds of design. And then the extend kind of keyword is shown here in small letters with these little double angle brackets. That means you do things and you may or may not add other use cases to it. So that's the difference. Now, I've never used use cases in my entire life. I've written these things up, written up instructions, user interfaces of wildly varying kinds, mechanical, physical, and software in multiple languages and formats and whatever. And there are a lot of ways to do this, but use cases is one way. And I'm not entirely sure I had the arrow going the right way on this one. I know that the arrow points out toward the things you've included. So
Can I add something? So I remember from my preparations that during exam, and Renu can correct me, right? She recently passed CBAP. So they ask you to read those diagrams. I would advise you to practice a little bit how to read those diagrams. And what I remember from my training is that extend, it means is independent case, right? So it's not involved with buying gas, but include pay for gas and pump gas. It has to happen in order to buy gas.
yep, that's the key word.
Yeah.
Extend is optional and separate. Include
Separate
is not
action, yeah.
optional and embedded.
And just to add, all those cases that are in include, they are usually the common cases that happen for a multiple of use cases. So that's why they're put as a global kind of functionality which gets added to each and every separate use cases. So and they are, as Julia and Bob mentioned, they are essential. They have to happen. And yes, the questions could be something like, when you are reading, they'll give you 4 options, like which one is mandatory, which action is mandatory, and who's doing that action. And so you have to understand accordingly and read the diagram accordingly.
Yeah, that's why guys who prepares for exam practice just few read few diagrams and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, this was one of the things when I took the exam. I didn't think about this at all. I didn't know how to use them. I just guessed. I passed. Everything else was strong enough. But it's better if you know these things explicitly. So here you are. So a use case will have some standard components. Obviously, one is the name, which is the description of the activity. The next is the goal. What's the end state that is desired? So if you think about it, when you pay for gas, what does that do? That renders the pump or activates it so that it's capable of pumping gas. Until you turn it on or give it permission, it won't pump gas, right? So that's the end goal. It is also the post condition or the guarantee. And remember, if the payment fails for whatever reason, however you doing, then you will not get the post condition or guarantee. There are error cases you often have to consider. And if you know user interface design, then you're aware that you have to talk about why failures happen, like the things that may be slowing down or inhibiting success or continuation or so on. So the next component we have in the drawing is an actor. And the actor could be a human interacting with some kind of system, or it could be another system that triggers something. A precondition is all the things that have to be true before the use case can be triggered or invoked. So if the gas pump has a bag over the handle, a yellow bag, saying it's turned off or the thing is padlocked, then obviously that would inhibit or cancel this entire use case. So it's what are the necessary conditions to get started. The trigger is the thing you do that starts everything going, and the flow of events is the actual sequence of instructions. So those are the major elements that the BABOK talks about. If you look at other references, like this is the one I use, it talks about more, and there are tons of books and write-ups and Wikipedia articles and whatever on this now. So
actually, sorry, actually, I want you to add to these things. In real life scenario, we have used use cases and scenarios a lot, especially when we give the application for testing to the users. When the user acceptance testing, we tell them that these are the basic things that you have to test and see that they are working. So we tell them some preconditions. We tell them the flow events, we tell them the post conditions, and as actor, we tell them what role they should be having so as to be able to perform this use case. So use cases and scenarios we have used a lot in, especially during user acceptance testing.
yeah, the more you have large groups of people working together in formal development and test processes, the more this kind of thing it becomes necessary. In most of the development I have done, I did everything myself. So there was no need, or the testing worked in some other way. and a lot of this detail was hidden from me. So you need to do this work in some way, whether you do it exactly this way or not, it's going to happen. So let's talk about the flow of events. There could be conditionals and branches and so on, and multiple endpoints. You can write it out as text. You can write it out as pseudocode. You can make a flow chart. There are a lot of ways you can approach that. I think there are some if you remember when we talked about sequence diagrams, there are ways to do conditionals with extra dotted lines. There are always subtleties to these. So the more you know about this stuff, the better. And there are other kinds of actors that may interact with a gas pump. Many references talk about a soda machine. So there's a customer will come on, pay money, make a selection, receive change, and so on. And there are other cases. And then there are service people that may have to open up the machine and restock, and sometimes they'll do the extra step of figuring out what sold well and what didn't, and maybe change what they restocked the machine with. So I happen to see people servicing these gas pumps, so I thought that would make a great picture. And because there are so many different kinds of actors that may have to get in there, one modular collection of steps that would make good use cases is open the gas pump and then close it back up again, right? Or expose the inside and then seal the inside. A lot of ways to think about this. So here's just a physical manifestation of a project or a process that you do all the time in a lot of different ways. Yep, that's all I have to say. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question
Yes.
about the use case. When we define the use case, the actions not related to the system, should we add to the use case? Like the visit stations, imagine that it not exists a function in the system. So should we add it into the use case?
Go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead.
It's my opinion that the use case should be very, very literal and have every single element in it. The use case in its primary form is designed to present to someone who's not familiar with the application or the tool or whatever. Here is how you do this. You do this, it does this. So that's the use case. This is a use case diagram. And each one of those ovals are going to show is going to encompass a whole bunch of steps that would be in the use case itself. But you don't leave anything out of the use case.
Thank you.
And actually, I just want you to add, so this is just a snippet of use cases. So if we want, we can extend it more. Like when a user visits station, they may not only just buy gas, they may also go into and buy some other items there as a, right? And so this can be enhanced. Visiting station is the first step. So that has to be part of the use
Like
case.
I said before, throwing trash out is a use case by itself.
Mhm.
Cleaning your windshield using this squeegee and what may or may not be soapy water and paper towels. Those are one or more use cases. Using a fire extinguisher could be a use case. Standing around under the roof in the rain could be a use case that would affect everything else that's going on. There can be as many little sections of these as you want. And you can imagine all these use cases extending the visit station use case, and you may or may not do all of them, right? And you may scope out the cute guy at the next pump. That could be a use case, whatever floats your boat.
That was what I was gonna say, though. Okay, so anytime you're doing use cases, you start with the most common scenario. And then you go to the least common, but you don't have to do every single one usually. You do, 80% of the scenarios that people will actually encounter. Those edge cases that, very few people are going to use or need. For instance, for a gas station, let's say your audience is, you want to figure out what the processes are that add value. The use case that someone uses your parking lot to do a U-turn in might not be one that you actually diagram. It's a valid use case, but it's not something that you need to do analysis on.
Like I said, this is a formal and accepted way of doing it with a standard nomenclature. It's
Right.
just as well to use the one that a lot of people know. So
Yeah.
I've written documentation for decades. This is 26 years old, I think. A thing I wrote for a system I installed in a steel mill. And the way it's a user manual, and one of the things I did was describe all the parts of the system, all the different components and sub-programs, and the way they talk to each other in the data structures and so on. And then at the end, what I did is I told a story of that involved a user exercising every element of the user interfaces on all the programs. All the programs, all the screens, all the UI elements, controls, readouts, and so on. So there are a lot of ways to do this. The more you know about this explicit one, the better off you'll be.
Right.
And take it away, Renan.
Okay, so Renu is going to talk about data dictionary.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen.
And I want to applaud Renew for stepping up and volunteering to do this. We need our chapter members to be doing things like this. So this is awesome.
So you can see my screen.
Yes,
BABOK is open.
BABOK
Right.
is open.
Perfect. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to go with data dictionary today. And data dictionary is the technique number 12 in BABOK. And data dictionary, what is a data dictionary? So as dictionary, a dictionary is a list of words. When we look at a dictionary, we know different words are there, what their meanings are, what are their equivalent words, and also various different meanings that it can have. Similarly, a data dictionary is something where we mention all the words related to the data, what their meanings could be. Like I'm going to show you a screen, an example, what could be their meaning, what could be, and any other information related to that data part. that goes into data dictionary. So I'm just going to show you this for a for a short period of time and go through it. And then I'm going to take you through the theoretical part of stuff. So you see, this is an extended data dictionary. This is from my real life project wherein we were defining, we created an application for licensing team. And these are some of the items that we have added as data. So you'd see there's a screen name, then there is a section name. So is my screen big enough? Okay. So there's a screen name, there's a section name, because each screen or each page can have various sections. Then what fields appear on those sections? What are the types of those fields? What are the values that those fields can have, whether it's mandatory, not mandatory? What is the length? And any business rules or comments that apply to that particular field are mentioned. So this is just a part of the dictionary. There can be more data, there could be more information that you can add to the data dictionary. So in data dictionary, I'm gonna cover what is a data dictionary, what are the various elements of it, primitive and composite, an example, how do we use it, and how we create a data dictionary and the major tools that we use for it, and strengths and limitations are coming from the BABOK, because when you have to go for an exam, you should be quoting the BABOK and some references which you may or may not want to use, but yeah, I've just added from where I took the context. So as I just showed you, a data dictionary is used to record details about the data involved in that particular change or initiative. Now, details may include definitions, the relationships with other data, the origin, the format, and usage. An important thing to note is a data dictionary is also called a metadata repository, as it contains information about other attributes like who created the data dictionary, who's the owner of that data dictionary, when was it published, the purpose of data collection, source, etc. So it also depends a lot on the collaboration tool you're using, where you are posting your data dictionary, the capabilities and features that your tool is providing. Like we use SharePoint a lot, and on SharePoint, all the version history is maintained, who created it, when was it updated, who made the changes, what changes were made, everything is there. So that's, and data dictionary also has all those elements. So that's about data dictionary. And a data dictionary contains definitions of each data element, that is the data that is involved in the change. So as you saw here, this is just a part of the data that is involved in the change, and we have defined what it is. So primitive data elements. So each data element must specify its name. So so whenever you look at a normal dictionary also, there are some basic things that the dictionary has, like the name, its meanings, how it is pronounced, and what could be the different meanings of it, and all that stuff. So similarly, a data dictionary should have basic minimum things like what are the names of the data elements, if if they are known by some other names, if in the organization the same data can be used in different, called by different names, what is the value and meaning of each data element and its description. And a composite data elements is an element which is built by combining various data elements. Those could be a sequence, those could be a repetition, and some optional text could be added. So to give you an example of composite data element, just think about your bank account numbers. So they are a sequence of things. The bank account number would have the branch number, their customer account number, the type of the account that is held by the customer, and accordingly. So, so that is a composite data element, which is made up by a number of other data elements. So if you look at this example, this one, the name of children's residence, it is a composite data element. If you look at it, it is made up of the prefix, the operating name, and the suffix. So prefix, operating name, and the suffix. So these three elements are making it a name of the children's residence. And like operating name, so there are some rules about it, like it has to be a name with which it is registered with the government, right? And what are the values it is pulling? It is a list of operating names which are provided in a profile that is a different module altogether at some other place, defined somewhere else. And we give in more information about the data. Like if you see the extension, default value to be X0000. And we can mention that if there's an email there, it has to be validated. It must be validated to be an email format. So these are a few examples of data dictionary. So
Hold on. Can you come back to the slide with the examples?
mhm.
Extension, right? Field label is primary element, right?
Primary, no.
Or is
So that
composite?
is, yeah. Okay, in that sense, yes, that's right. It's a primary element. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So just stop me in between if anybody has a question or I'm too fast or too slow. Let me know. So now in this example, as I showed you, the screen field types can be text boxes, radio buttons, check boxes, multi or single select drop downs, and so many other things that we can have on screen. So we have to, as a business analyst, we have to mention what you want on the screen, what would make sense for the user. Like a radio button is something, if there are 4 choices, only one of them can be applicable. So you use a radio button. But if multiple can be applicable, then you use a checkbox. So you have to define these things carefully. And now once this DFS, also call it data field specification document. So once this particular thing is defined, our database administrators, what they do is they convert this data into their form. The DBMS, the database management system, whatever they are using, they're converting these things into for their purpose, like a text, a numeric, a date and time format. They're going to specify a date and time format, a common format, whether it's an enumerated list, whether it's a Boolean value, just holding 2 values, yes or no, or if they are unique identifiers. So according to the database, they are actually going to convert these data fields into their data types. This helps them create a data dictionary for their DBMS. Okay, so
May I?
yeah, sure, please. I
There
can't see the
are
screen, so
other ways to no, go ahead, stay with the screen you had. There are other ways to specify data types in different programming languages. So data is not always represented in databases with standard numeric types or text fields or whatever. There are a lot of different programming languages and applications where you may have numerics of different sizes, structures of different formats and makeups and so on. And if you know the range or acceptable values, that can guide more about how the implementer, usually a programmer, but not always, is going to store the value. It's what kind of data they're going to actually put in. So if you know a number can be a floating point and have any value, you might want a really wide floating point value. But if you know there's a priority which is only going to range from 1 to 4, you can make a very small data value. And those will all depend on the application, the implementation language, and so on. So it's very important to, if you know the range of acceptable values and/or their formats, include as much many kinds of data descriptors as you can. Thanks.
So
Right.
if you're doing
Thank
data
you.
validation, you can put it in here. A type of data validation.
Yeah, you can, in the business rules comments field, you can also put in those data validations if they are very generic kind of stuff. If there are some, like, there are sometimes a lot of complex business rules that drive that data field, then we put in the reference ID or the ID of the business rule there, because everything cannot be here. It's more of data. But like this validation is a small part, so we can mention it here.
Yeah, we do that. Honestly, we do that a lot with addresses, with like Melissa
Yeah.
data or the postal service data to validate the
Yeah.
address and standardize it.
Right. So moving on to, this was just an example. Next, I'm going to first go to how do we create a data dictionary and what are the major tools in the industry that are used. So when you have to create a data dictionary, first to gather various terms that you're going to use in that particular initiative, give those terms a definition, then align them with that. Within that, there could be various modules within that initiative, so align them together and then get everybody's support and buy-in for that, and then get a sign off on that data dictionary. That's very important, so that everybody knows that there is a consistency and what everybody has decided to go with. Then centralize that document, and most importantly, upkeep the data dictionary. Keep it up to date. If it goes obsolete, then it loses its value. So normally, business analysts and domain experts work together to create a data dictionary and maintain it throughout the life cycle of the project. Now, database designers can use the data dictionary to correctly arrange tables and fields in the database. Data dictionaries can be created and maintained manually. So Excel is the most commonly used tool for creating data dictionaries, and it has a wide range of features that it provides. And it's very easy to use. Everybody uses the Excel for various purposes. But there are some DBMS built-in tools also. Every DBMS has built-in tools wherein once the database designer defines the tables, uh, they can just click a button and the data dictionary comes up. And there are some automated tools like Datadeo, Colibra, Elation, etc. that are being used in the industry, and they are very specific tools. So frankly, I don't know much about these tools, and I have never used this. I've mostly used the Excel for my data dictionary part. Okay. So now, as per BABOK, yeah.
No, I was just going to say a lot of those tools, they actually export a data dictionary usually to Excel. That's part of it, but
Yes.
they're very helpful. We use one called XRM Toolbox that looks at a database and then it'll export everything out to Excel and give you what forms they're on, what the database stuff is, what type of field it is and everything.
Yeah, and they are very helpful because they also give us an idea of how the database is structured, what are the relationships that are between various tables and various data types, various data used in that initiative.
And I've often made the beginnings of these in the early discovery phases of a project in Microsoft Word. in a consistent outline format. So there are a lot of ways to do this.
Yeah. So the basic aim is to have a list of data that we have that we are going to use. The basic aim is that the bigger the application, as the complexity increases, you start using more and more advanced tools for that. So as per BABOK, these are the usages of data dictionary. So data dictionary is used only in one knowledge area, and that is requirement analysis and design definition, and just in the tasks specify and model requirements. And data dictionary is a type, it falls into data and information model categories. So you may remember there are different model categories used in specify and model when you are specifying and modeling requirements like activity, people and roles. So data information is one of them. And this data dictionary is helpful in some of the other techniques as well, like is in business rule analysis. When you're doing a, like as I showed you the example, even that's business rules. When you're writing the business rules, you take into account the data dictionary as well. In the data flow diagrams, the data that is used in the data flow diagrams has to be in the data dictionary. And in data models, the data models use attributes which can be described in the data dictionary. So, and data dictionaries are heavily used in business intelligence and information technology perspectives. So as you see in the BABOK, we have some 5 perspectives, 5 or 6 perspectives. 5. So it is mainly used in BI and IT perspectives. So when we look at the strengths of a data dictionary, the best is that it gives us a shared understanding of the format and content of the relevant information. And it is a single repository of corporate metadata that promotes the use of data throughout the organization in a consistent manner. These are the main strengths of data dictionary. And if you talk about limitation, as we talked earlier, it requires regular maintenance. Otherwise, the metadata could be obsolete or incorrect. Then another is it requires time and effort. All maintenance is required to be completed in a consistent manner in order to ensure that stakeholders can quickly and easily retrieve the information they need. So this needs time and effort. And again, if it is not, unless care is taken to consider the metadata required by multiple scenarios, it may have limited value across the enterprise. So if you want the data dictionary to be used across the enterprise, then you have to take into account all the industries that are in the enterprise, all the departments that are there, so that a common data dictionary can be created. So for references, I have used some of these links, but if you go and do a Google search for data dictionary, you'll get a lot of good material on internet as well.
Great.
So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Renu, thank you very much. Can you share your presentation so we can post that with ours?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
We just have a few minutes. Does anyone have any last questions?
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple things. So, the point of contact and source of the data is more important than you think. So you need to know where to go to get the data, and you need a way to know that it's up to date and accurate and authoritative. I worked on a process where somebody did entire data refresh every year for a giant calculation to justify staffing levels across like almost 200 locations around North America. And they had to keep track of who had the information, where it came from, what kind of things changed. And the guy that did the work had to keep track of which items he had actually updated. So there are so many different aspects of this. You should be aware of all of them. And the other thing is that the BABOK says it's only used in one knowledge area. I know I think about the knowledge areas in a different way than the BABOK. In the way I think about phases, it really comes up almost all the way through. So it comes up not in defining the problem, but in doing discovery and data collection. It's an early phase, and then requirements may have some bearing there. And design, definitely we agree that it should be there. But it also comes up in implementation and possibly in testing. So it's really almost applicable to every phase in the life cycle and should be connected with every knowledge area. So I might write to the IIBA about that.
Okay,
And that fantastic job. Thank you.
absolutely fantastic. And fortunately, we're going to have the pleasure of Renew presenting financial analysis next week. Thank you so much for that, Renew. And Ashish is going to be presenting user stories. So we look forward to both of those. So next week is the 22nd. Let's see. So next week is going to be, we have 2 more meetings before the end of the month. And we have decided that we're going to take the month of July off. We have a lot of people traveling during July. And so June, we're going to keep meeting. We're going to take July off. We'll return in August and return to our regular Thursday night schedule. But just you have the month of July off with us. So you know what's happening next week and you know about July. Did I miss anything, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Once again, if you're interested in being a board member, speak up and we will get you on. It looks good on your resume. Renew, yes, Renew is speaking up. Okay, awesome. Renew, let's have a conversation and see where we can put you. Cliff, you probably need to weigh in on that too.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
Cliff, why don't you invite her to the meeting Monday night? And yes, Bob.
I was just gonna say, it goes without saying, I hope, that if you ever have questions about anything we talk about or anything in this entire group or just what you're doing, I'm always here to help. I'm generally better in writing than talking, but I have been inspired to write blog posts and it makes me think about different things. So please ask for help if there's anything I can do for you. And I'm sure that goes for Thea and Cliff and you as well. But I probably have the most time available for that kind of thing.
Thank you, Bob. That's very, very kind. Giving back to our
And
community.
Renew, sorry,
Go ahead,
Renew.
Bob.
Can
No,
you
Cliff.
send me your email when you get the chance?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, Cliff. I'll send it to you.
Giving back to our community is the way we make our community strong. And raising each other up is really, really important. In fact, if y'all have a chance, look on LinkedIn. I just posted something, I think yesterday, one of the very best talks I ever heard about raising people up and not tearing them down. I think everyone should be required to watch this video. It's a TED Talk. It's not even brand new, it's a couple of years old, but it's fantastic. So if you have a chance, please watch that. I think honestly, it will make you better. It'll make your family better. It'll make your work better if you watch it. Okay. I will see y'all next week. I'm looking forward to seeing the presentations. If you're making a presentation again, it doesn't have to be fantastic. It just has to be, what does the BABOK say? And do you have anything else to contribute? That was
And
good.
yeah, I also wanted to say thank you guys for turning on your cameras. It's very nice to see faces. Thank you.
It
Thank
is.
you.
Thank you. We do appreciate that. And if you get to watch this by recording, reach out to us and let us know. We don't know that you get to see it, and we don't know that we're benefiting you. So reach out, let us know. It's important to us. Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.